I just wanted to run you through and give you some tips and tricks on assembly of your black powder coated hose reel assembly from Ionic Systems. You can see the full range at ionicsystems.com.au. So these black powder coated steel reels come flat packed, and we often couple them to Quattros, Trions and van mounted systems. There are a large variety of hose reels that Ionic Systems do, and you can see these on our website. Let's run you through tools required to put together your hose reel assembly. In regards to quarter drive socket set, 3/8 drive socket set, particularly 10mm, 17mm, a couple of ring spanners, 10mm, 17mm open-ender spanner, a shifter and flat-bladed screwdriver, and a 5mm Allen key. So you would be able to put this together with a couple of shifters, but if you've got particular tools of trade, it is going to make the job a lot more quicker. I do have an impact driver, which is going to speed up the process of doing up some of the nuts. Let's open up the box. So we talked about the instructions that come with the kit. So you'll have a plastic bag full of assortments. Put the instructions aside. A couple of wheel assemblies, handles, axle, outer reels, some struts and some central supports. So we'll unbox everything and unwrap everything and come back to you shortly. So we've just unpacked everything and put the packaging aside. So you'll have your wheel assemblies, your front and leg assembly, your handle assembly, your axle assembly, the two sides that make up the hose reel, the centre struts, the two centre supports, your handle, some nuts, some Allen keys, some washers, a couple of stainless steel solid bearings, a couple of strut supports, which will put the whole system together. So the importance is following the instructions. If we miss a step, the degree to be able to assemble that part becomes very, very difficult. So we'll start off initially and we'll put the centre supports in. So you'll notice that the outside of the hose reel is chamfered, so it's designed that when the hose comes in, it runs over the top of that chamfer. So the outside of the hose reel has a particular direction in regards to assembly. So take note in relation to that chamfer and that radius on these outer structures. So we'll grab our Allen keys, and each side will have 3 Allen keys. So we'll do those up. It is a 5mm Allen key itself, M5. So this is stage 1, and it'll be repeated on the other side as well. Very important, step 1. So it doesn't matter which side you do initially first, but definitely that stage. The second part it's a stepped centre support, so take note of the chamfer. We'll feed the section through. So this is actually the inside of the hose reel assembly here, which we're going to fit the barb, which will allow water flow through the centre spigot. So we'll once again take the remaining 3 Allen keys and we'll do them up in the centre. Then the kit assemblies come with a roll of thread tape. So the thread tape is used in a couple of different spots through the assembly of these hose reels, and we'll talk about that following this next step. So we've done those up. we'll give them a nip. It's also good practice as your hose reels start to age to go along all the vibration of your vehicle, and just snip these up. You could use a little bit of Loctite, some non-permanent Loctite to lock these in position. Now, very important step. So the center spigot adapter, which is going to adapt to our Ionic RX hose, is held on in relation to prevention of leakage with some thread tape. So the use of thread tape as a sealer, whether you're using a liquid sealer or the thread tape that's provided, goes on in a certain direction. So these are all right hand threads. So when you add thread tape to right hand threads, we go in a clockwise direction, so that when we let the thread tape go and pull the thread tape tight, it will finish in that direction in regards to direction of rotation, so that when we apply the nut assembly, it will prevent pickup of the thread tape and allow that easily to be screwed on and sealed in regards to water flow. So we'll just nip that up, and that centre barb is going to be the centre of our hose reel, which is going to take our water through that centre spigot. So the next step after that is assembly of the centre struts. So in this particular application, the way it is assembled, the spacings, it's all set up. We add the centre struts. So we'll add all these centre struts in that particular nature. So we'll have a washer and a nut, and we're going to do that following the sequence all the way around, and we'll connect the two together, and we'll come back to you shortly. So we've loosely assembled to this particular stage. So we've got our centre support struts. You can see the lip in regards to the hose reel. The smooth side will be on the inside. Our 17mm nuts, and we're just going to zip around and do those up. So it'll be, there's a flat on the inside. I am going to use a ratchet to speed things up. So we've just tightened up our 17mm nylock nuts on both ends. So you can see there. You'll notice our centre pickup. So if we didn't put that on in sequence, to be able to do that up now and wrap that with thread tape would be extremely difficult. So that's our water out going onto our hose reel to our water fed poles, and this will be our water end in the end. So water will actually flow through that centre shaft. We have solid bearings. So these solid bearings will next slide on in a manner like that. There is a step down, and that step down will take this next assembly, which will put the handle, axle and forward leg all together. So we'll keep the nuts on the inside of the structure, and we'll do that on both sides. So notice the step down. We'll keep the nuts pointing in, and we'll slide that on in a manner like that. So we'll next assemble the axle and the forward leg. So the handle assembly is longer in regards to the two assemblies. So we'll take the forward leg and in there like that. So you want to have these 10mm bolts maximum looseness without the nuts popping up. They are a nylock nut. We'll flick it over, and we'll put our axle assembly in, which will also hold our wheels. Times like today you wish you had a third arm. We'll put that in there, and we'll flick that over, and we'll get the assembly to sit on the ground in that nature like that. So the handle assembly will then go a couple of different ways in regards to personal preference, and the flat bladed screwdriver can often help in regards to prising open the clamp arrangement to be able to get the assembly in. That goes there. And keeping that side there, we'll prise it apart, spring loaded in a nature like that. So it is 10mm. We're going to go along now and do these up. We're going to use the impact wrench. We're going to have a 10mm spanner on the inside, and we're going to fly around and do all these bolts up. So we'll do these up evenly, diagonally opposite, to get it all initially spaced right. They only do not sort of over tighten, and we'll go around and then nip these with a socket or a ratchet set rather than rely on the impact driver. We'll do the same on the other side. So obviously having the right tools makes it extremely easy to carry out the task. And like anything, once you've done it once, in any task it becomes easier the next time around. So we will just fly around and double check all those. They're tight. They are a nylock nut, so a locking capability, so they won't sort of vibrate or come loose. So you can see our centre bearing assembly, our solid bearing that we've assembled, and we're nearly there in regards to assembly of the reel. So we're going to use the thread tape again on the outer, which is an adapter. So once again, it is right hand thread, so we'll go in a clockwise direction, and we'll wrap that and we'll pull that tight like such. Now we have an adapter assembly, so we're going to step the thread up. So the brass connector that comes with the kit does have a silicon seal, so being knurled, we can actually use that to tighten that assembly up and bite onto that thread tape as we go on like that. So don't over tighten, it's only water, it can only leak, but with enough thread tape like that you'll be absolutely fine. Wheels and axles are quite simple. It's once again 17mm on both sides. So we'll nip them up. I also wanted to talk about wrapping your particular reel. Just do these up. And I wanted to give you a big tip in regards to unravelling your hose when it comes pre-packaged. So wheels, handle assemblies are quite straightforward. So we'll have a centre alignment hole there. The handle assembly will go through. We have a bolt which we'll do up there in regards to securing the handle assembly on, and we have a locking mechanism which will screw in here and allow you to lock that reel or that handle assembly in a position that suits you to wind up the reel or whether to stub it out of the way. So you can see that pick up there. So in regards to the assembly is complete, so when we wrap the reel, your 100-metre reel, the biggest tip that I can give you is obviously a length of 100-metre hose is quite long, so I'd suggest take it to a park or in an open space where you can unravel the hose. And I find when you pull out the hose, if you untwist it as you go along, it will give you an initial better wind up and allow much more ease of operation. So the hose itself has two ends, obviously, and the way it's wrapped, it has an inner in relation to inner of the reel or wrap, and it has an outer. My tip for you is, after you cut the plastic and the wrapping off, is pull the hose from the centre. Do not pull the hose from the outer. So you'll initially cut it all, grab that inner and go for a long walk, twisting the twists out of the hose as you do. So the other end, at that point in time, you'll connect to the centre barb, which we initially installed on our build of the reel. So in the kit we get ear clamps or clips. So these are a permanent setup, so they're designed that they'll slide over the hose, and you'll grab a pair of side cutters and you'll clamp both sides of the ear to be able to secure that hose onto the hose reel. They are a permanent fixture, so if you squashed the ear clamp assembly, you're going to have leaks, and to be able to remove that you're going to need die grinders or a pair of side cutters or aviation snips or tin snips to be able to remove that clamp assembly. So another alternative, which doesn't come in the kit, is Adele, or different Jubilee clamps, which will allow you to tighten and remove that hose as required from that barb, compared to the ear clamps that do come in the kit. So just a bit of personal preference. What you do get a number of these clamps, so you can put two on in regards to putting your hose on your reel to prevent that water leakage. It is all low pressure because your water-fed pole is open-ended, so the pressure within that hose assembly is quite low. On your initial wrap of your hose reel, on the centre struts, don't pull too tight. So if you pull too tight on the centre struts, you're going to squash the internal diameter of the hose. So the first route and wrap of your hose onto your drum, keep it a bit loose, which will keep that internal diameter. And once you get one or two wraps, then you can start pulling it tighter and get a bit more neatness about wrapping your 100-metre hose reel. Obviously 100 metres is quite a lot, and it does fill up the reel. Being a newly built hose reel assembly, you can put a little bit of lubricant on the solid bearings, which will help it spin a little bit freer. So whether that's a bit of WD-40 or something equivalent, a bit of motor oil will help the assembly turn a lot freer. I hope you've got a few tips and tricks out of assembly of these hose reels from Ionic Systems. Don't be daunted by the process. They do come flat pack. We do order these in quite large quantities from Ionic, and it's just the best way to transport these around the network. Appreciate you watching, and stay safe.